elude the defender. Stays right where Allen wants to go. Wants the baseline. Fade away. Yeah. He's way too good. He steps around move and drilled it. And the Sixers have scored 9 in a row. 7 straight points by Iverson. Looked like he was still the win. The Sixers by 4.
And welcome to the Sports Skillet Radio Show. We broadcast every Sunday morning live here on our social media accounts. We want to thank you for joining us. And again, we want to remind you to check out sportskillerradio.com for all the latest sports news, show updates, great articles by Mike Nebbia and others as well. So go to sportskillerradio.com, check out that for all your latest sports news, show updates. Lots of information. We got our Twitter account going 24/7, so you want to check that out. Also, all our social media accounts as well. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. And if you're not joining the show live, if you're getting us on our rebroadcast, checking us out on your timetable, thank you very much just for tuning in. We appreciate it. Just do a search for Sports Show. We pop up there. And we enjoy bringing you the show live every Sunday morning. I am Jay. I am joined by Mike Nebbia, the coach, Shane McGowan. We got James Good joining the team this week, and we will shortly be joined by Alex Decchia. I think he took a timeout. So as soon as he comes back on screen, we'll bring him aboard as well. James, I'll start with you here. I wanted to get Alex riled up, so when he comes back, we'll get him riled up here. But we want to start by talking a little NFL because we are pumped up. We are excited to have the NFL back. Training camps are opening up.
You Carrie Underwood.
Yes, lots of interesting stories percolating going on in the NFL. James, you're new to the show, but I'll bring you in. Get your feet wet. Jump into the deep end. Here we go. Lots of reports have the Eagles jumping in. Speaking about jumping in, a lot of media reports have the Eagles jumping into the Deshaun Watson pool, waiting for his legal situation to get over and done with. James, do you think the Eagles should go out and pay the bounty to bring in Deshaun Watson?
I think they'll be stupid not to. Like, look at their quarterback situation right now. You know Deshaun Watson is a proven winner, and he's a proven top 5 quarterback in this league. He's never had any talent around him. So finally, that the Eagles are finally getting talent around him, he can finally win probably here. I know he comes with a huge price tag, but I think it's worth it because any team that gets Deshaun Watson will probably go deep into the playoffs.
That's an interesting take because a lot of the Eagle fans I've heard on sports talk radio that a lot of Eagle fans are kind of iffy about bringing in Deshaun because of his legal issues. Shane, would you go out and do it?
Well, right now, Deshaun's showing up at the Houston camps because he doesn't want to be fined anymore of $50,000. So that's going to now depend on where they want to send him and what the best offer is going to get. So, I mean, that could be Philly. That could be anywhere right now. I mean, there's so much happening around there. But the problem is that what are you going to get? I mean, like I said, you're bringing in legal battles. You're bringing in a lot of stigma of what's transpired with him and everything like that to any organization. Now, yes, he's a proven quarterback. There's no question about that. And again, though, his talents pretty much will shine if he's got talent around him too. You know what I mean? And that's going to be a big factor as well. So, I mean, like I said, you got some young guys out there, the receiving core, which is great in the Philadelphia system. But I still think that, like I said, if some of this stuff can get wrapped up a little bit with his legal issues, it can kind of put a little bit of that dark cloud away maybe and help rejuvenate. But I don't think you're going to go wrong whoever gets Deshaun Watson. I mean, the man is a quarterback. He can play. He knows what he's doing in so many ways. It's just, like I said, will he fit the right system as well? he's not welcomed in Houston. And like I said, it's going to be interesting what's going to happen there.
Yeah. What about you, Mike? Would you go out because it could cost a bit to bring in Deshaun?
Yeah, it's definitely going to cost a bit. Probably a first or a second round pick or two. Probably a good young quarterback. But here's the thing. We've all said Deshaun Watson's a proven winner, and it's true. Yeah. He's won playoff games for the Texans when they can get into the playoffs. He's won a Heisman. He's won national championships in college. But he's got so much baggage under him that I'm just iffy about him, and I'm not an Eagles fan, mind you. I'm a Giants fan. You know that.
Yeah.
Maybe if this legal crud can wrap up in a timely manner, like what Shane said, it could reassure some teams who are going to go out and get a guy like Deshaun Watson that maybe he could straighten up and fly right. But if I'm one of those teams going after Deshaun Watson now, I probably wouldn't go after him until all this legal crud is sorted out. And I was watching the NHL entry draft over the weekend, and I saw the Montreal Canadiens pick Logan Mailloux, who has a charge against him himself. And even asked not to be drafted this year.
This is true.
So Mark Bergevin, the GM for the Canadiens, is going to be taking a lot of heat. To go back to Deshaun Watson, whoever picks up Deshaun Watson, the GM for that team, is going to take a lot of heat.
This is very true. Absolutely. And here's the other thing you have to consider, too, is not only the legal issues about Deshaun. Again, he doesn't have any criminal charges. So at the moment. But the other thing hanging over his head, like the sword of Damocles, is Roger Goodell. Because in the NFL, you don't have to necessarily have criminal charges or anything like that against you. Roger Goodell could put you on the exempt list for conduct detrimental to the NFL and suspend you without pay for 4 games, 5 games, half a season. You don't know we don't know what, if anything, Roger Goodell is going to come up with. You would think that with all these charges, I think there's like 21, 22, some 20, 21, 22 women that have brought civil charges against him. You would think that where there's smoke, there's at least a little minute bit of fire there in what he did or did not do. And the other thing that came out, too, is that Deshaun Watson doesn't mind the verdict be anything like if they come to an agreement. He doesn't mind that becoming public. It's the lawyer for the women that wants to keep it sealed. So that's an interesting twist in this case as well. So, again, you have Roger Goodell. I would think any trade for Deshaun Watson and Howard Eskin.
Go through Goodell.
Yeah. Howard Eskin came out with a report saying the Eagles are about, 85% in on trading for Deshaun Watson with the Houston Texans.
That's going to be a hefty price.
And I mean, they have the draft capital, but here's the other thing too. If you don't trade for Deshaun Watson now, and you wait until after the season or right before the draft, you may get more teams. And like right now, it may just be the Eagles, maybe the Denver Broncos,
maybe the Falcons, who have the quarterback situation of their own with Matty Ice.
Maybe. But
Matt Ryan's on the wrong end of 30. I've been saying this time and again. He's on the wrong end of 30. His production's starting to decline. The Falcons are going to need an heir to Matt Ryan. Plain and simple.
True, but I think the Eagles might be able to beat out the Falcons with their draft capital for Deshaun. So, it would be like a quarterback-needy team that would trade for Deshaun. But if you win,
they're going to need a quarterback too. Now that Drew Brees is gone, I don't see Bridgewater as the not Bridgewater. Jameis Winston. I don't see Jameis Winston as the quarterback of the future for the Saints. I just don't see it.
Neither do I.
He's interception prone. He's injury prone. He's inconsistent. We saw it in Tampa Bay. We could be seeing it this season in New Orleans.
Well, here's the thing. He has a different coach. That's an intriguing thing to watch in training camp too. The quarterback battle for the New Orleans Saints. Like you said, Jameis went, but he has a new coach than he had in Tampa Bay. Bruce Arians likes to just air the ball out, and who cares if it gets intercepted? He just likes to throw. When he had Jameis Winston down there, it was like throw deep, throw deep, throw deep, and that was about it.
His game.
And Mr. Payton, the head coach of the New Orleans Saints, likes a more conservative approach. Not necessarily throw the ball deep, throw intermediate, high percentage passes that are going to be caught. So you have a different scheme going on with the New Orleans Saints. He had a year to learn under Drew Brees, the scheme and everything. So he might be a little bit better in New Orleans. What do you think, Shane?
No, there's no question about that. I mean, like I said, it's the whole new ball game for him there. There is going to be a quarterback battle between Taysom Hill. And in the end, it's going to be which is best. And I can see them actually playing a little bit of, starting one. And then if it's not going well, you're going to yank them and then throw the other one in. I mean, that's just how it's going to be, I think, too. Unless somebody can actually solidify themselves as that starter and can take the reins and go from there. But you got some big shoes to fill anyways in New Orleans with Breeze gone. So, I mean, it's a tough situation for anyone going in there. But like I said, I think without a doubt they're going to give him every opportunity because they could have let him go. He could have walked away after last season too. You know what I mean? But they want him back. Payton, Sean Payton wants him back and wants him there and see something from him. So like I said, that's his opportunity, I think. And I think he realizes that, and he's going to make the best of it and make the most out of that opportunity for sure. But like I said, there's another big one that's happening too, and that's in Green Bay. I mean, you're without Mr. Aaron Rodgers, who's now you got a situation up there that's looking for a solidified starting quarterback too.
And Rodgers might end up taking the Jeopardy job.
Nah,
possibly.
He's gonna find himself what he wants, and then you're also gonna lose your star receiver out of there in Adams next season as well too. Yeah. So Green Bay is going to be a sinking ship right now in many ways, and I think they're going to be looking to figure out what can they do to get themselves back into the mix somehow. And you never know. I mean, maybe a Deshaun Watson going to Green Bay might happen.
True. And James, what did you think about Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams kind of having the same Instagram post recently? They both posted the same picture on Instagram. Do you think that has any hidden meaning at all?
I think that means they're in like the same boat. They both want to leave. They're both tired of the organization. Davante Adams already been liking posts and with Derek Carr on the Raiders saying he wants to go back. He wants to go to the Raiders with Derek Carr in a couple seasons, or even this season if he was allowed to. And Aaron Rodgers been saying he wanted to be out. He's been saying he's been having trouble with the organization. Like they're not listening to him. He's tired of, having to do everything himself is what he thinks. Even if he's a great quarterback, but I think that just means they're probably both going to split up, and one's going to go. I really do think Davante Adams is going to go on the Raiders because I think the Raiders will do anything to get that star receiver to Derek Carr to win anything. And then I feel like Aaron Rodgers will end up leaving. He might do a Brett Favre. Well, if he goes to the Vikings and like kicks Kirk Cousins out and says, "Hey, I want to verse the Packers 2 times a year now."
Interesting. Shane, what do you think about Davante Adams to the Raiders?
No, I mean that's been in the mix for a while, and I love it. I mean, to me that's my team, so you know that. But I think it'd be great, and really, I mean, I think in many ways because Davante's only got the 1 year left, he sort of controls his own destiny in some ways too, right? And yes, it'd be great to get him this season. I don't know if that's going to transpire. Gruden would love him. There's no question about that. They could use a great deep threat. They've got a few that they could actually throw out there to Green Bay in some type of exchange because I know Gruden wouldn't hesitate to raffle off some guys and stuff to get a star like him. And you're right. I mean, to see to see Aaron Rodgers play a swap there with Minnesota, that's not unrealistic either. I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen in this whole mess and stuff. I just my biggest thing is trying to figure out. Aaron, I think in many ways wants to get out to the West Coast though, and I think that's something that where you're looking at a few things out there that just because of him getting married and everything like this too. I got a feeling that somehow he wants to wind up back out there in that West Coast somewhere.
Oh yeah, and you got to think his new bride there would have some say in where they want to set up shop and live. And you got to think too. I mean, you look at it. He's a superstar quarterback coming to probably the tail end of his career in the NFL. I mean, I don't know how many years he may have left, but he's in his mid to late 30s. So that has to be a consideration. Now, I mean, I know Tom Brady's still playing, but we don't know how many years.
I don't think Tom Brady is out of this world.
Neither do I.
I think he's from another dimension.
Could be.
But like I said, you could also look at it and say, listen, does the San Francisco 49ers find some way to also pull him into? You know what I mean? Do they get rid of Garoppolo and some other key pieces to try to get Rodgers out there as well too? I mean, so many things happening behind the closed doors and phones are ringing like no tomorrow. And I don't know. I mean, Garoppolo is kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out in that organization right now.
This is true. I think that's something to watch too, is how well Garoppolo does in the preseason, because the 49ers want to get him back on track and have him as their starting quarterback, and they're looking to obviously make the playoffs. So that's something to watch too. Shane, what else will you be watching in training camp as they open up?
Well, I think good old Jerry Jones came out this week when I was talking with NFL insiders about how he feels he's got the team to get to the Super Bowl. He's got everything in place now. He's got Dak all healthy. He's got Zeke. He's got everybody. So he's damn determined to make sure that he gets there this season. But I think there's a lot of obstacles that are happening. And like I said, I brought it up this week too. That division is a roll of the dice. You've got from Washington, right, who I think if they can figure out that quarterback situation, they got the best, probably the best 1-2 front four defense out there, in the league, and they're going to just dominate in many, many ways. So I think they're that position in defense. It is going to come down to a few things. Can the Eagles play a mix in there? You know what I mean? And then, well, you got the lonely Giants too. But again, with their quarterback situation, who knows what's going to happen with them? Because like I said, the man has to learn to run without falling down on his face when he gets an open field. But like I said, with Barkley back, it makes a big difference for the Giants too. But I can't see them actually giving him the rock that much right off the hop because, like I said, of that injury. So I think they're going to weed him in slowly. That means you're going to rely a little bit on the pass game for the Giants. That may be a little bit interesting because, like I said, there's a lot of pressure going on there too, especially when you look at who the Giants quarterback coach is, and that's a guy called Jason Garrett who kind of found himself out when it came to the old NFL and the Dallas Cowboys. So, like I said, I think the Giants are in a little bit of trouble in some ways too. I think Washington is the team to beat in that division, but good old Jerry feels that his Cowboys are going to take it all the way. So that is going to be a good training camp and see what happens. I don't think that's going to be the case myself. I know Dak's been looking good, but there's a difference between looking good in practice and actually being game speed and having some big ass guys running at you.
Yeah, and Shane, you brought up Dak. I saw there's an article up on NFL.com that Dak is holding back. He's not revealing his status as to getting the shot for the coronavirus. That is interesting. He's not saying whether he got the shot or he didn't get the shot. I'm just wondering if that could play a part too. Maybe he's mentioning it to his teammates, but he's not coming out publicly. And the NFL this week came down really hard on players that are not getting the shot for the coronavirus. Dak not revealing it. Do you think that is something we got to monitor going forward, Shane?
Well, I think not only brought up since the the NFL came down with it, but from some of the players, especially star players that haven't been vocal about it and are saying, you know what, I'm not going to get it, or I'm not sure about getting it, and everything like that. I think their coaches and the management have kind of told them all to say, just keep your mouth quiet for a little bit here. Don't start talking anything. We got to figure some things out. You know what I mean? And I think naturally as an organization, they're going to be trying to push it and saying, but it can happen if you come in positive. It could all pretty much wind up getting nothing, a lost game, lost wages, team loses on the opposite side, lost wages, etc. So there's going to be a lot of controversy happening in the next little bit, and a very unhappy players as well too. So I mean, it's going to be unfortunately, I think there's going to be a lot of tension among some with the NFL PA as well as the NFL in this regards. But like I said, I also think you're going to see a lot of people keeping a very close lip on whether or not they have been or haven't been. And that's what I'm saying is the numbers are going to be fudged too, I think, in some ways too. They're going to say, oh, we got 85% of our team. Well, that might actually only be 60%. You know what I mean? It's just keeping it quiet, keeping it hush on certain things until it's actually time and things are totally in writing and saying this is what's going to happen if you guys test positive and so on.
Yeah, James, what did you think about the NFL coming down hard on the players not getting the shot to the vaccine for the coronavirus?
I think you're going to see a lot of star players think about retiring. Yeah. You saw what DeAndre Hopkins said. He said, I don't want to be the cause of my team losing a game. And to think about that, losing probably one of the league's top 3 best receivers just because he doesn't want to get the vaccine or something, or because he might be scared of it. You never know. He might be scared to get it because you don't know what would happen. You don't know how it would react to his body. So that to me, and then you see that one Vikings offensive coordinator or offensive whatever just leave the organization saying, I don't want to deal with this. Basically, I don't want to see this great game get broken down and have all these greats retire early because of conflict of interest. I don't.
What's going on here, James?
James, you're kind of breaking up on it, so just a little bit. But you were saying you don't want to see the game kind of broken down because a lot of players retire, correct?
Yes. I don't want to see the game. I don't want to see the game like we lose our game because the players don't want to get the vaccine or coaches don't want to get the vaccine. I don't want to see us lose our star players because of that.
Yeah. What did you think about this, Mike?
I think this is a good move on the part of the NFL. You don't want the vaccine? Well, then your team's just going to have to forfeit if there's an outbreak. Major League Baseball, your move.
Yep, I agree with you. I think this was a heck of a good move by the NFL because and I'm not saying players don't have, some people are saying this forces the players to get the vaccine. No, it doesn't. Players still have the same rights that they do. They're not taking away any rights from the players. If you want to get vaccinated, great. If you don't, great. But the NFL, as any job, as any any organization, any job has the right to hire or not hire or pay or not pay people who get vaccinated and people who don't get vaccinated. And all the NFL is saying, hey, if you don't want to get vaccinated, that's your right. That's fine. But here are the consequences if you don't get vaccinated. Boom. And then players can know what the rules are and get vaccinated or not. Go ahead, Shane.
Okay, but here's the thing. Playing devil's advocate on this is that you're also now looking at discrimination because what if somebody has an autoimmune disease of some kind and cannot afford to be vaccinated at this time? I'm not saying that they can't later down the road, but at this particular time because of certain things, you know what I mean? So you're taking that away from them as well. So I got a feeling you're also opening up a door for a little bit of lawsuits that could easily come certain ways too. Now I understand everybody first and saying we want to play a season without any problems and all this other stuff like that. But you know what? Right now, you guys down there are in the worst scenario and situation because you didn't get your so-called vaccinations a long, long time ago. And Florida is creeping up even higher and higher and higher. So you guys screwed yourselves over a long time ago. Now the NFL is catching up and saying, geez, I guess maybe we did open up and do things a little too soon. So now we're going to have to put the kibosh on us right away and blah, blah, blah. But like I said, is that you weren't smart about a lot of things, and now it's biting you all in the asses. And this is the problem. And now for players and others out there and coaches that are saying, you know what, I can't do it because of whatever the reason is, maybe their bodies, other things they don't trust at this particular time, something that's come out that isn't even in necessarily been 4 or 5 years in circulation, like most vaccines are. They're a little scared. They're worried. It's their life. It's their health. It's everything else too that goes with it. And they don't know the ramifications of certain things. So like I said, to me, this opens up a bigger can that they might find later on down the road because of this saying you either get vaccinated or you're out, or you take the loss, or your whole team loses pays and things like that. So, I mean, yeah, for some players are saying, well, that's not worth it. I'm not going to put up with that crap. Now you got fans that are saying, you mean to tell me I just lost a star player to early retirement, somebody that I idolize and stuff, because the league can't come up with a better idea of certain things? So playing devil's advocate, these are the things that you're going to have to look at as we move forward in the NFL.
That's true. And, and that's something that the NFL, I'm sure, had to take into account before coming out with these new rules. But you're right, Shane, losing a star player just because that player does not want to get vaccinated or can't get vaccinated, that's going to hit a team pretty hard, like you said, especially if they're paying that player a ton of money. It's
going to be guaranteed cash, and that's something that a lot of teams just can't really afford to do on certain things when it comes to the cap, when it comes to a lot of things after too. You know what I mean? Because you're going to be dinged later on down the road. So I mean, it's a tough situation, and I think the biggest thing I'm thinking about too is why the heck did the NFL wait so long to come up with this? Why are you waiting right till before training camp to come up with this scenario and protocols when you had a long time before that to get it all in place and figure out certain things and at least get players a little bit more, okay, before I go to camp, this is what's going to happen and stuff like this. Now what? We've already started camps and boom, the laws have been made. I mean, to me, that's a little side dirty dealing in some ways too.
Yeah, it could very well be. What do you think, Mike?
It could be some dirty dealings, but that's just how the NFL wants to handle things this season. They want players to get the COVID vaccine in order to play.
Yeah.
And if you lose a game, so be it. That's the punishment for not getting the COVID vaccine. And I suspect that the lost salary from players not getting the vaccine would go to the charity of a team's choice.
Maybe they haven't said what the fine.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking, because the NFL has this track record of donating to worthwhile causes of players and teams' choices.
Very true. So, Mike, let's.
They also might be put into a rainy day fund because they might be going on strike as well. You know what I mean? So,
don't even mention the S word. That is taboo in sports.
Yeah. Hey, taboo in sports. Welcome to the NFL. Not for long. So, like I said, this is how it is down there. And really, the way the NFL has been dirty dealing so many different things lately, be prepared to see certain things of them putting that money in the side and in their own pockets that way, just in case they do have to go on strike.
Yep.
We nearly had an NFL lockout in 2011, 2012, which led to the revival of Fear Factor.
True.
I was not opposed to.
You're in Fear Factor right now.
Yeah, with the
Fear Factor.
That's right.
Exactly.
So, Mike, what NFL training camp stories are you going to be following this year?
I'm going to be looking to see how Daniel Jones fixes his turnover issue in training camp. This is Joe Judge's second year as head coach. He's working with a young quarterback in Daniel Jones who still has some turnover issues, but they're working on the offensive line. They're working with him to fix those issues. I'm hoping this is going to be a good season for the Giants, but I'm not getting those hopes too high up. I'm also keeping track of the Aaron Rodgers situation. We know he guest hosted Jeopardy for 2 weeks. He's in contention for the job to replace Alex Trebek. I'm interested to see where he goes. Does he stay with Green Bay? Does he go out west? Does he take the Jeopardy job? I don't know.
Well, we should have some clarity on that this week if he reports to camp or he doesn't. James, what NFL training camp stories are you following this year?
I'm following a couple. I want to see how the Eagles do their training camp, because after Jim Schwartz leaving, a new head coach, and basically a whole bunch of new players, I want to see how Jalen Hurts can take control of that first quarterback position, or will Joe Flacco? I want to see that situation. And also I want to go see my Raiders and see how the Raiders handle their situation, because I want to see who the number one receiver will be, because they want it to be I want it to be Brian Edwards. I think he's a better player. And I want to see John Brown be a deep threat, the slot receiver. And I want to see the other, forget the other guys, I can't think of his name right now, but I want him to be the other receiver.
You got Renfro. We got Renfro and Ruggs out there.
I want to see Ruggs be the deep threat, and I want to see Edwards be like just the possession receiver, like more like a Hines Ward almost, always catching the ball. And then Renfro can be back and forth with John Brown. And then I want to see, Darren Waller just keep on doing his type of things. And then I want to see Josh Jacobs fight with Kenyon Drake, because I think Kenyon Drake could be almost better than Josh Jacobs is.
Could be. What do you think about those Raiders stories, Shane?
Oh, I mean, like I said, I totally agree with everything when it comes to my Vegas Raiders and stuff like that. I mean, there's going to be a lot of talent out there. This kid's got to be used, and how they're going to use it. I think Waller's going to have another great year. Personally, that guy is dominant at that tight end position. I think he's in there with Kettle and with Kelsey. There's no question about that. I think you're going to see something too in which Carr, now that he's got a few extra years under with Gruden, I think you're going to see him a little bit more comfortable and make some more key things happen too. Defense is always going to be the struggle. I mean, there's no question. But cornerbacks, they're having their issues and stuff like that. They did bring in a couple of linebackers and so on, but unless you can also stop the run of any team, so playing a guy like Delvin Cook or Derrick Henry, I mean, you can't allow a guy to get 200 plus yards on you every time. So I mean, these are the things, and that goes for every other team out there too. Because like I said, there's a lot that we're going to be watching and seeing, and some of these big backs that are out there that are playing, there's going to be a lot of domination out there. I think one team that I am interested in to see where they go is going to be the Steelers, because I don't have much faith in Big Ben myself. And I don't think that 12-0 when they started off is definitely not going to happen again. You know what I mean? I think they're going to wind up being a little bit more stumbling out there and having some problems too. So, even though I get the fact that they brought in, a few other players and everything like this, I think they're having some problems in that quarterback situation. I think Ben is going to show that he's not the guy that he was. You know what I mean? And that's all it is. But so it's going to be interesting for some of these teams that did pretty great right off the hop last season to, I think, stumbling and just being mediocre out there.
Yeah, you bring up that division. That's going to be, I think, a very competitive division, because you got a second-year quarterback now for the Cincinnati Bengals. So they're hoping that he improves in his second year. You've got the Baltimore Ravens, always a dangerous team. And you've got the Cleveland Browns, who a lot of people think may make a deep playoff run right in that division as well. So that could be, you make a good point there in checking out the Pittsburgh Steelers, because that could wind up being a pretty competitive division when it comes to making the playoffs.
And that's what I mean. And I think with Cleveland being the way that they have shown, and having another healthy OBJ out there with Landry and everybody like this, Chubb and Hunt doing their thing, And then, like you said, Burrows, before he went down, was doing well. You know what I mean? He was doing well, and now he's got some extra help out there too. So he wants to come back fired up and do his thing. So there are teams that are going to win. They're going to win their games out there a lot of times, and I think that puts Pittsburgh a little further down because Baltimore is always going to be in the mix, and I do think that Baltimore wants to have that breakout season as well too. I think they finally realized because. Here's another thing, too, that I think we're forgetting is guys like Lamar Jackson and them are looking for the next big payday. They're coming up for the next big payday. So I think this is their season where they're going to say, this is why I deserve to get that big contract as well now. And I think this is what's going to motivate, and you're going to see a little bit more action from some of these guys that are up for big pay raises.
Yep. And James, another intriguing storyline to kind of keep your eye on, too, as well, is the quarterback situation with the Detroit Lions and the Rams, too, as they swapped quarterbacks, and the Rams lost their starting running back for the season, too. I wonder how that'll affect the Rams going forward because they were supposed to be competing for a playoff spot.
Well, you know how it'll affect the Lions. We all seen how Jared Goff plays quarterback and how he's really inconsistent. And the Detroit Lions don't really need that in their lives right now. They have enough, bad things going on. But with the Rams on the other hand, I feel like how a lot of experts are saying that Matthew Stafford can win MVP this season. They're thinking that's because he finally got out of Detroit and he has all this talent around him at wide receiver and tight end, even a little bit at running back, even if they lost their starting running back. Matthew Stafford will just make it happen. I could see Matthew Stafford going for 4,500 yards and like 40 or 50 touchdowns with this. Because it doesn't even matter about the offense. The defense on the Rams is, in my opinion, the best in the league. And like, if you get that many interceptions or even that many sacks, you'll get off the field so much quicker and give the ball back to Matthew Stafford. And you'll just keep on pulling up points after points, I think. I don't think there's going to be any team besides maybe the Browns that can stop the Rams' onslaught on offense, because I think Matthew Stafford will bring just that difference that they needed to that offense.
What about the 49ers or the Seahawks in that division?
I think losing Robert Saleh will hurt the 49ers a lot. They still have a lot of talent, yes, but look what happened to Richard Sherman. He just got he just got locked up a couple days ago, right? And and now it's supposed to be your captain. That does not look good on your part. So they just lost that. He's a big voice in the locker room. He's a big voice on the field. So they lost him. And then Seattle is all they have really is Bobby Wagner. I mean, they have Shaquille Griffin still, I believe, but Bobby, I don't even know if KJ Wright signed with them again. I forget if KJ Wright signed back with them again. If they didn't, they don't really have that much talent on that defense. No. It's always been Bobby.
Yep. This is true. And on the offensive side, they have Russell Wilson. They have some good receivers, but can the offense once again outscore what the defense gives up? I think that's the question with the Seattle Seahawks.
I don't think they can.
But again, too, with Seattle, it came down to the same thing: is they were lacking their offensive line, right? And you had Russell becoming your lead rusher because he's got to scramble out of there. You can't afford to do that. You know what I mean? You really can't. Yeah, Russell can scramble at certain times, but you got to have a run game and a running back that can do that workload. Look, they got two great receivers with Metcalf and Lockett out there. I mean, there's no question about that. You can't deny what those guys can do. I mean, they're talented young men. But if you don't have enough time for Russell to make those things happen, then you're in trouble. And again, like you said, defense on Seattle is going to dive because you are missing a big chunk of guys out there that can do some damage. And that's going to be a hard thing for them. On the San Fran side, I mean, like I said, it's going to depend on what they can do at quarterback. I mean, it really does. It's going to depend on what you're going to do with the quarterback situation there. You've got talent with Kettle and everything like this too. But if Garoppolo can't play and he can't figure out that system that Shanahan wants, then it's not going to be a good look. But I think the Rams are in a great position right now. I think they really are. I think Henderson, they're not looking, from what I've been told this week, they're not looking to bring anybody in at this particular time because of what Henderson showed that he can do last season too, when Akers was out a few times. So I think they're okay keeping Henderson in as that lead back and doing things for them too in that way. But with the receivers that they've got even on backup, never mind behind Cup and Woods out there too. So like I said, I think Rams are actually looking very, very strong right now. Same with the Chargers out there too.
Even though Shane, even though the Rams lost their starting running back and are kind of
even though
go ahead.
Henderson has proven that he can do a lot with catching out of the backfield and things like that. And they're not looking to go out there and say, well, let's see, do we need a Bell who's available? Do we need this? Do we need that? No, they're saying, listen, we can rely on Henderson to get us that four yards that we need per carry at certain times, and let Stafford do some other things. And I think that's what they're going to try to do for the first little while and see, because from what I was told this week is that it's not something that they're prioritizing at this particular moment to say we got to go get ourselves a running back, because they feel that they can do something with Henderson.
Gotcha. And James, another intriguing story may be with the Chicago Bears. How soon do you think we see their first-round draft pick, the young quarterback? Do you think it's week 1, or do you think they hold him back and start one of their veteran QBs?
I think they'll start Andy Dalton for at least I think at least the first game, or maybe it's at least 3 quarters at least. They want to see. They don't want to throw him into the pit of fire like a lot of teams say. They don't want to throw him into the wolves right at the beginning, because Justin Fields will be good because they have a great team. I think their defense is still, even if they lost pieces, that defense is still phenomenal with Eddie Jackson and Khalil Mack on that team, and both their starting linebackers, Danny Trevathan and Raquan Smith. Yeah. And then their offense can be great. They have 2 good running backs, a top 5 wide receiver, and a couple good young receivers. They have a good team. So I'm thinking as soon as they have them mold a little better, and they start with Andy Dalton, because I think he brings that the veteran presence. So I feel like he'll be better, at least at the start. And then he, like Justin Fields said, Andy Dalton has been teaching him during training camp. So I think you see him. I'm going to say you probably see him within, if Andy Dalton does bad, you'll see him within the second game. But if he doesn't do bad, I think maybe 4th or 5th game, like if they're winning, he just throws him in or anything. It matters how Andy Dalton does.
Yeah, Shane, how soon do you think we see Justin Fields?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's you kind of agree with what James is saying, is that first is going to sort of depend on where is Andy taking his team right now. You know what I mean? Are they winning, or are they, as an example, let's say you're losing by 3, you know what I mean, or you lose by a touchdown. Well, that's not necessarily your fault as that quarterback. You know, maybe it's the defense, it's something like this, right? So it's not really the time that you're going to pull. But if you're being blown out of the water and that game is really going bad and so on and so on, then yes, you can see Fields getting put in there in some ways. But I think they want to make sure, again, like you said, is not to throw him to the wolves too fast, because like I said, the game has changed, the speed has changed, things like this happen real quick, and let him get a good bird's eye view of the pace of the game right off the hop with Dalton out there first and seeing what's going on and everything from there. But I do think that, like I said, I do believe that they want to get Dalton at least a few games under, get Jason to feel comfortable on that sideline, seeing the plays, calling certain plays too in his head, you know what I mean, of what he sees and happening on the field at that same time. And then they'll make the change. But I mean, heck, if Chicago's winning, well, why make a change? I mean, if Dalton's getting them to win games, I mean, you're not going to make a change. You're just going to keep riding it out. And that's all there is to it. So until we see what's happening first, and I think preseason is going to be interesting to see where we go with a lot of this too. And knock on wood that nobody gets banged up or injured either, where you got to throw them in there as well too.
True. Mike, how soon do you think we see Fields? Do you agree with everybody else?
I don't trust Andy Dalton to lead the Chicago Bears to more than 1 or 2 victories to start the year. I think we see him either week 4 or 5.
Gotcha. I tend to agree with Mike. I tend to agree with kind of you guys. I think they're going to start off the year with Andy Dalton as their QB. Like I said, just to give Fields a bird's eye view, like Shane said, of the NFL, the speed of the game, what's going on within the game day preparations, that type of thing. So I think they hold back on Fields, even if he shows up well in training camp. I do think they hold back on him. Let him see what's going on. Let him get used to game day activities, the speed of the game, and then maybe mid-season, maybe a little bit after that. And it depends on Chicago's record, because I do think that the GM's job and what's going on. Let him get used to game day activities, and that type of thing. And I do think that the GM's job and the head coach's job kind of depend on seeing Fields on the field. I do think their job kind of depends on developing him and how good he looks. Because if he comes in and absolutely tanks and looks horrible, you could see him being a backup or gone maybe next year, the head coach being gone. You could see a lot of things going on within the head coach and GM ranks if Justin Fields absolutely tanks. But Shane, before we get out of here, I wanted to kind of touch base with you a little bit on the hockey side. We see the Flyers GM making a bunch of trades, kind of rebuilding the atmosphere of the Philadelphia Flyers, especially on the blue line. What did you think of the Flyers trades this week?
No, I mean, like, nothing. Personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with the trades amongst not only the Flyers, but a lot of the other teams too. A lot of it also had to do with, again, with the salary cap and also the expansion draft too that was happening and things like this. So, like I said, you have to look and say, what does our team need? Because next season, like I said, which is just around the corner, really, when you think about it, they're going to be starting up here in about another 6-8 weeks as well. So things are moving fast. They want to get a team in place that's ready to play and be competitive out there. And they saw exactly what it was like, this season with the grind that they had with a lot of tougher defensive plays out there. And they didn't have enough offensive power to go with it. So I think they need to up their game a little bit there too. So you're going to see that happening. I think that this season that's coming up, I think you're going to see a lot of different faces on your teams. You know what I mean? And that's going to be a little challenging for people who are used to what they've got and everything like this. But again, like I said, if you're not making playoffs, you got to make changes. And that's really what it comes down to. If you're not making it into the playoffs and getting further and further in playoffs, you have to make changes to get there. And I'm actually surprised that some other teams didn't make some more changes as well too. But again, when it comes to an expansion draft, you have to be careful because you can only protect so many, and you got to give up. So it's hard to just kind of make certain adjustments like that.
Yeah, we saw yesterday news came down. The Flyers traded Jacob Voracek for Cam Atkinson to give them a little more tenacity on the power play. Cam Atkinson likes to be on the power play. Gives them another guy to shoot the puck on net. I actually like that trade. They also get rid of Voracek's salary. They have Atkinson, I believe, signed for the next few years as well. So they don't have to – I think it was Atkinson that's signed for the next few years. They also got two defensemen to help on the blue line. So I think that helps them out as well, bringing that guy in to give them some tenacity on the blue line, Shane.
Yeah, well, and that's what I mean, right? Yeah. So not only are you bringing Atkins, who has proven that he can play the game at a high level and does do well on the power play and the penalty kill too. I mean, don't forget about that. So, like I said, to me, those are the things that you need, that they looked at and said, these are the things that we need to help this organization as we move forward, because it's tough in that division. And I mean, like I said, you're still going to have other teams that are looking and doing the same thing too, because if you don't make playoffs, you got to figure out what the problem was. And I guess that's what they figured out the problems were, is that not enough scoring production needed from some of their guys. Time to get the rhythm. Yep.
I absolutely agree with you there. I thought, now they did give up a lot of draft. They did give up draft capital in acquiring these guys. So that got a lot of Flyer fans a little ruffled, giving up the draft capital. But, if you're trying to make the playoffs, you're going to be drafting later. And they gave up their first round draft pick, which was, I believe, number 13. A lot of Flyer fans thought that was high. But when you're bringing in a tough defenseman who can clear the puck, out of the net, kind of maybe be on your second unit. They also brought in another player to help out as well. I think giving up the draft capital, you never know what these players are going to develop into, Shane. So I don't mind Chuck Fletcher giving up the draft capital.
No, and like I said, I mean, you've got Atkins for another 4 years, according to what I picked up here. So, and plus, you also got Ryan Ellis too, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So there's another proven defenseman out there as well. So, I mean, like I said, overall they didn't do bad, and you got to give up draft picks at certain times, and that's really what it comes down to. But again, like I said, the salary is the biggest factor right now. And every GM is going to tell you the same thing, is that your salary cap is what's going to kill you, make or break you when it comes to a lot of different things. So I think Philly did what they had to do, and we'll see what happens if it paid off for them.
Yeah, I mean, they traded, and they also got rid of the ghost, Shane Gottisbehere, as well. They shed his salary. I mean, he never lived up to his hype on the Flyers, so maybe a change of scenery might be good for Shane Gottisbehere. Maybe going to another team, maybe they get a little bit more out of him than what the Flyers were able to. They also got rid of, good, bad, or otherwise, Robert Haig, a 2021 first rounder. That was pick number 13. A 2022 second rounder, 2023 second rounder, 2022 seventh rounder, and they brought in Rasmus Ristolainen. He was the guy to also help them out on the blue line. I believe he was the one on the 1-year deal. So I believe they're going to have to re-sign him. So they gave up a lot to get some of these guys. You want to make sure that giving up these draft capitals that you're able to re-sign them and keep them all long-term. But again, it's draft capital, and when you go into a draft, you never know what these guys are going to develop into or not develop into. So you're getting some of these guys who may be coming to the Flyers, being on the first line or the second line may actually help them out, Shane.
Yeah. Plus, I think a lot of people also forget is a lot of these GMs think of also trade deadline, right? You also got bait to hang out there. So depending on where you are come the season and the trade deadline starts to come up, you start figuring out, okay, we got to get rid of so-and-so because we're close, we're in the playoffs, we're in the mix, whatever it is. So we can start making some moves then too. So like I said, all these GMs are thinking 3-5 years in advance, but they're also thinking about trade deadlines and who they can throw out there if need be. So yeah, I mean, depending on how Philly pulls it out this season and where they are to that point, you may see some more shakeups happening and stuff like that too. So,
yeah, and the other thing too is that their goaltender this past year had a rough season, struggled quite a bit. Flyers were expecting a lot out of him. Rebuilding the blue line and adding a little more toughness, adding a little more skill along the blue line will definitely, I think, help out the struggling goaltender on the Flyers.
Yeah, I mean, he had a rough one. There's no question about that. But again, too, as much as you want to blame him, you got to also blame what's in front of you too. Lack of scoring production from the team, but also a lack on the penalty. They gave up a lot of penalties at certain times too. Their penalty kill was terrible in many ways. Yeah. And again, too, is that just makes for a rough night for Hart out there and stuff like this. So I don't think it necessarily didn't matter who was in net too. I mean, if your team is playing that bad throughout the season like this, you're going to have problems. So like I said, I mean, it's a new season coming up, new faces, new changes. He's going to do his best to make sure in the pipes he's going to do whatever he can. Mr. Hart is going to try to perform at what he was at before at that level. And like I said, I expect that he's going to be a lot better out there.
Yep. And Mike, before we sign off here, I want to get in a little MLB talk. We have the Mets still in first place in the dreadful Eastern Division. Phillies are rapidly falling off pace. Mike, what do you think about the New York Mets?
This has been one most unexpected seasons I have ever sat through. This is basically 2000 Mets meets 2006 Mets meets 2015 Mets. A magical season. And if these guys don't win the NL East, I'll be shocked.
I hear you. I mean, well, actually, the way the NL East is going, yeah, I mean, the Mets have what, a 4.5 game lead over the Phillies. We have the Nats in free fall. I mean, their players are getting hurt and not performing. Phillies play them coming up. Phillies have a big one Sunday afternoon against the Atlanta Braves. Aaron Nola, who's been struggling just about all season, is on the mound. We don't know what the Phillies are going to get. And it pains me to say this. We have no clue what we're going to get at Aaron Nola. He was supposed to be probably their number 2 starter behind Zach Wheeler this year, and has proven to be maybe a 4 or a 5 with the way he's pitching this season. I mean, he's struggling quite a bit. The 4 and 5 starters are absolute garbage whenever they come in there. We saw Vince Velasquez struggle in the 3rd inning yesterday and get pulled, and then say, after giving up, a lot of people are saying that Velasquez gave up 6 runs. That's actually incorrect. Velasquez technically gave up 6 runs, but he got pulled with 2 runners on base, and the reliever that came in allowed those 2 runners to score. So it actually went on Velasquez's tab. Velasquez actually only allowed 4 runs personally, but still 4 runs in 3, in the 3rd innings or whatever, 2 in the 3rd inning, is absolutely dreadful. So the 4th and 5th starters, you never know what you're going to get out of them. They have their prize starter at a AAA pitching, I believe, tomorrow. But again, he only goes once through the batting order, maybe 3 innings, and then they pull him after 30, 40 pitches. I mean, that's and they want to stretch him out. That's unbelievable. So you're right, Mike. This division, outside of maybe Atlanta and the Mets, may be total. Maybe total garbage. We don't know what the Phillies are going to do. We have their GM saying, "I want to buy at the trading deadline," but the Phillies as a team are saying sell. They dropped off. They were like 2. Now they're like 4 something games behind. So, and winning this division, what are you going to do in the playoffs? And the Mets have their injury and COVID issues, Mike. It just may be the Mets, but the Mets may get some of these guys back. Some of their top pitchers back, Mike.
Yeah, Carrasco starting for the AAA affiliate at Waterfront Park in about an hour.
Yep. So, the Mets may get some of these pitchers back, and DeGrom may need a start or 2 before he comes off the IL, the injured list.
Oh no! Don't tell me he's gonna start in Single A St. Lucie again.
Maybe he may.
That is just rude. You're in Single A, working your way up through the minors, and the first guy you face is Jacob DeGrom.
Yeah, that's
rude.
Yeah, but being off this long, he needs that. He may need that start or 2 in the minors, whether it be Single A or Double A or Triple A or wherever they stick him to get those couple of starts. He may need that, but the Mets may get these starters back, and that may be just about enough to win this division. Yeah, the Phillies have been very inconsistent. Have been a 500 team all season. They're at 500, then they drop a game or 2. Below 500, then they start catching fire again, and then you're like, bye, and then they drop off again. I mean, it's just been a 500 season for this team, and all they needed to do is play over 500 like the Mets are, and you win the division. I mean, it's the Phillies have been this maddening team all season with their inconsistency. Their defense drops off. They lost They allowed 15 runs. They had a position player come in and pitch multiple innings, an inning and a 2/3 or whatever it was, Saturday evening. And it's just Manningley. And the Mets may end up just by attrition winning this division. That's just the way it may be. I just, right now, I would love to see the Phillies make the playoffs, but at this point, it might be better for the Phillies' future if they sell and not buy, if they try to acquire minor league talent for some of their veterans, if they can, and shed some of their salary, get a little bit more room under the salary cap rather than going over it. I know a lot of people want to see the Phillies in the playoffs, but for their and I do too. I would love to see a Phillies playoff game, but, does it really matter if you're going to lose in the first round? Yes, with Zach Wheeler on the mound, maybe you win a game. But beyond Zach Wheeler, you don't really know. And maybe Eflin if he comes back. But beyond those two guys, you never know what you're going to get out of this Phillies pitching staff. It's just sad to see right now if you're a Phillies fan. So, I've been saying bye. I would love to see the Phillies in the playoffs, but for the long-term future, it may be a heck of a lot better if they sell. But they brought in Dave Dombrowski to be their president, and oversee things, and he's a guy who likes to buy and get into the playoffs at the expense of his minor leagues. So we'll see what happens at the trade deadline. What do you think about the Mets, Mike? Should they buy or sell?
I think they should buy if the need arises.
So you think the Mets, any position you're looking at right now, if you think the Mets should be buyers?
They need infield depth and they need outfield depth. That's it. They addressed their starting pitching need with the acquisition of Hill from Tampa Bay, but they need infield and outfield depth. That's about it.
Gotcha. And Hill was an interesting acquisition too. He's a guy that can come in, be your fourth or fifth starter, depending on what happens with the Mets rotation, and give you some innings. He may not be a number one or number two starter, but if the Mets get, Syndergaard back, if they get DeGrom back, there's your 1 and 2. Some of the other guys back pitching like they have, they may just need him to be their fourth or fifth starter, Mike.
Yeah, and I believe they put Peterson on the IL to make room for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe you're right. So, if he's your fourth or fifth starter, I'm always a little bit tentative when what's the name? When Tampa Bay really, gives up a starting pitcher with everybody coveting starting pitcher. All you have to do is look at the Phillies draft. That's pretty much all they drafted is pitchers. But with pitching being so coveted, it kind of maybe puts up a little bit of a caution sign that Tampa Bay gave Rich Hill up, but they did, and he's a Met, and he should definitely help him out. He's supposedly pitching Sunday afternoon, Mike.
Yeah, he's playing today. He's getting his first start today.
Yep, so that'll be interesting to see him on the mound for the New York Mets, see what he can give them. You also have Stroman there, possibly as your number 3 starter. So the Mets have a pretty good rotation going once they get some of these guys back and healthy. And you're right, maybe add another bat. Should they go big time? Maybe get somebody from the Chicago Cubs that may be available, Mike.
I don't think so. I really don't think Brian is the best option right now.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I don't necessarily because he might cost you a little bit because there may be a lot of teams in on Bryant, which would even though you only get a couple of months out of him because his contract is expiring at the end of the season. I think I don't think the Mets should go all in on Bryant because, like I said, you would have to re-sign him, and we all know the Mets owner has a big pocketbook, but or a big wallet, I should say. Being a guy,
he has
but
extremely deep pockets.
yes,
I checked his net worth recently. He's up to 18 billion and climbing.
gotcha. Yep. So there's no question that he has the money to re-sign whoever he wants to re-sign. But in getting Bryant, you would probably have to give up some top minor league talent to acquire him, because there are and that would be because a lot of teams may be bidding on him. Even though, like I said, he only has a few months left on his current deal. But still, I don't know if I were the Mets, I would go that deep to acquire Chris Bryant. I might go maybe for a bench bat, like you said, that could come in, give you some good at-bats when needed, and go kind of that route. I kind of agree with you there. And if you're the Phillies, it's just tough. I know people want them to make the playoffs. I would love to see the Phillies overtake the Mets and get into the playoffs and have some playoff action. Finally, it's been a long time, 10 years since the Phillies have made the playoffs. But, if Dombrowski is going to give away their top minor league talent to acquire some of these guys, which may be the case, and, even the closer, Craig Kimbrell, there's a lot of teams that may be in on him. Mets might need a closer, Mike. What do you think?
I don't think we'd be in on Kimbrel.
No? Do you think the Mets might need a closer, though?
No.
No? Okay.
They might give the closer job to Trevor May, but I doubt it.
Okay. I think the Phillies may be in on Kimbrel. That would solidify the back end of the bullpen. I know he doesn't do well in the playoffs, but you may have some other guys that, because he's in that back end, now can develop the way they probably should. So maybe getting Kimbrel might. And Kimbrel does have a contract for the rest of the season and then all of next season. So you have the comfort of knowing that you have a closer next season. So maybe that kind of solidifies roles in the bullpen going forward. So maybe getting Kimbrel might be good for the Phillies, depending on the asking price for him. Again, I don't necessarily know that I would rip apart the Phillies minor league system as bad as it is. They still have Bryson Stott down there coming up. I know they have a couple of guys that are doing well at AAA, but who knows what happens once they get to the major leagues. I just don't know if I would rip apart the Philly minor leagues to get somebody that might put me over top in this division, knowing that you may have to face the Dodgers, the Padres in the playoffs. Brewers. I don't know that the Phillies could compete with those teams in the playoffs with what they have now or what they may add at the trading deadline, because you're going to be playing the same guys that are now a 500 team. So I don't know what what significant difference that would be going forward. So I might sell if I was the Phillies, try to maybe get some top minor league talent if you can. Gene Segura is a guy who's hitting well, so maybe you take advantage of that. Maybe get rid of Rhys Hoskins, move Alec Boehm over to first base. We do know that I firmly believe, and Mike, maybe you'll concur with me on this, that the designated hitter should be coming to the National League starting next season.
I believe so. I don't think so. I believe it's not going to be coming to the NL next season. People have been advocating for it, but it's not happening.
So you think with the next CBA, the National League stays the same? They don't add the DH?
They don't add DH, no.
Ah, gotcha. So we have a little difference of opinion there. I think in the next CBA, they will add the DH to the National League. I think it's coming, and I think that would benefit the Phillies greatly because I think they're kind of set up for the DH going forward. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see what happens this week with the trade deadline, Mike. And that should be exciting because I do expect some trades to go down. I do think Dombrowski will make a trade or two. I don't know how significant it will be, but I do think he will make a trade to bolster the Phillies in some fashion, whether it be adding some major league ready talent at the minor league level or pushing forward and thinking that the Phillies have a shot at the division title. So we'll wait and see what Dombrowski does, but I do expect him to be active, and I think the Mets will be active too, Mike.
I do think the Mets will be active at the trade deadline. Question is, how active will they be?
Exactly. And Mike, as we wrap up the show, can you give us a NASCAR preview?
Actually, there's no races for 2 weeks because of the Olympics. It was programmed into the schedule with the help of NBC that there would be a 2-week Olympic break for NASCAR's Top Touring Series.
Gotcha. And who do we have currently in the lead in NASCAR?
The regular season leader right now is Denny Hamlin, but he's got no win, so he could be in danger of missing the playoffs should he miss the regular season championship.
Interesting. And what would be the next race coming up in 2 weeks?
That would be Watkins Glen, a road course race, August the 8th.
Now, here's the thing. Some of our listeners may not be aware of, may have a question of, what's the difference? Now, you mentioned it's going to be a road race. So what's the difference between the tracks? What makes the road race different from other tracks?
What makes the road courses different is we turn both right and left. And on these road courses, we do see typically a bunch of road course ringers, guys from IndyCar, from F1, from GT Racing, from IMSA, jumping into these cars to try and get the upper hand against the NASCAR veterans. It's been commonplace since, I believe, 99, where we see a few road course ringers in these cars on tracks like Sonoma, Road America, Watkins Glen.
Gotcha.
So it just adds to the chaos of road racing.
Gotcha. And we will be looking forward to that. I'm not going to ask for your prediction just yet, so we'll keep people guessing on who you may predict to win that race coming up. Mike, before we sign off, any final words? Anything you want to discuss, talk about, maybe I didn't bring up yet?
Not really, no.
Okay, good. Well, we want to thank everybody for joining us this week on the Sports Skillet Radio Show. We appreciate it. However you are finding us, whatever social media outlet that you have, we want to thank the Heat Ratio Sports for hosting us as they do every week. You want to tune into all the great content on Sports Skillet as well as the Heat Ratio. We have a lot of great shows on there. So again, check out the Heat Ratio. Check out sportsskilletradio.com for all our great content as well. Thanks to Shane. Thanks to Mike. We appreciate it. And again, thanks for all you guys. Again, it's sportsskilletradio.com @sportsskillet for all our great content. And we will see everybody again next week here on the Sports Skillet Show.
Stays right where Allen wants to go. Wants the baseline.